How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? This is Steve from the 8BG with my co-host Sterling, and we
Hello.
and we are the 8-bit generation, and this is the 8BG cast.
Is that the
Thank you.
name? That's the official name? The 8BG cast?
Well, that's the name for the show. Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
I, I don't think I've ever said that before.
Yeah,
I
I
just
don't
always
think
call
so either.
it yeah. And I just realized that that's I should have been doing that. But
All right.
well, this is the 8BG cast, and we're the 8-bit generation. Um, So, today I think we're kind of talk about something a little. It's gonna be related to gaming, but also in tune with current events.
Okay.
For those who don't know, uh, you know, uh, 2020 has been a very eye-opening year
I mean,
so far.
realistically,
Hmm?
you said for those who don't know. I mean, at this point, come on. Who
I
doesn't?
mean, yeah, you,
Who
you don't
doesn't
know.
know?
I'm prefacing this for those who may listen to this maybe 50 years down the line, if it's still
Oh,
available.
okay.
You know, but for those who do know, I mean, it's hard to miss it. But yeah, the world's kind of going crazy right now. You know, not crazy in a bad sense, but kind of like something that we've never seen in our generation in recent years. There have been
Not to this scale. I think
not
that.
to this scale,
Yeah.
yeah, but I believe it. It started this year with the unarmed shootings of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and the killing of George Floyd, and it culminated into this furor where people are protesting, but also there are riots happening out there.
Hmm.
Um, you know, uh, and it's kind of crazy right now. They've been putting in curfews lately because of the protests, and mostly because some of those people who took advantage of the situation are rioting,
Hmm.
which is why they install the curfews. There are people attacking police stations and everything. So this is like kind of like
It's
you
huge.
know it's huge. It's like straight out of a textbook, stuff that you only read about as a kid, never thought you'd live through.
Mm.
And but we're living through it. History is changing right in front of us. For the which I hope for the better.
So, what's your input on this? Because I mean, uh, everybody talks about this. You know, these people have talked about it to no end, and I'm not trying to say that like.
Hmm.
What's your perspective on it? Um, I don't know how you're relating this to gaming, other than they delayed some things because of it. And but what's your whole perspective on it,
My perspective is that
or whatever you want to talk about? I don't know.
well, before I get into it, like how it relates to gaming, I definitely feel that this was something that was going to happen because as a black man, you see so many unarmed shootings happening to black people in America, and I think
Let's say let's say let's say racial profiling more because it's not just shootings, right? This is
it's
not.
not shootings, but I think it's the killings though. I think that's the
It's the
issue, the main issue,
brutality.
because
Well, it's not
it's
even.
brutality.
I would say just the treatment, because there's a lot of
Mhm.
like, you look at what was this, Luima, that got sodomized and stuff. It's the
But then if
overall treatment.
is Luima, but then you can even go back to someone like
Diallo.
Amadou
Yeah.
Diallo, who got shot 20 times because he took out his wallet.
I believe it
You
was
know,
41 times, but go ahead.
40. You say thank you, 41 times. So it's been happening for a long time. But I think the reason why you know, but I think nowadays with the prevalence of cameras
Hmm.
and video footage, I think now people really see what's been happening because it's been happening for years, for decades. It's just that because we don't have cameras, with we didn't have really proof to go on, or really anything to really kind of like tangible to kind of go by. But I always believe it's police brutality has always been happening, but now that there are cameras, more people who probably weren't privy to it are seeing it, and they're joining the cause for protests with many other people who believe this is wrong and want some type of reform. Um, you know, and uh, yeah, it's sorry, I'm just
Are you caught
it's
up?
Yeah, it's pretty caught up, and I know normally we don't talk about this kind of stuff on the podcast. We try to keep it,
It's
you
our
know,
this
um,
is our podcast. We can talk about whatever we
yeah,
want.
that definitely. But I definitely feel a movement, and I hope that these changes come, being punished for those who brutalize and kill, you know, unarmed black people, especially. I mean, all people, but I'm definitely black people because I believe that we're on the higher end of the abuse that happens. In
Yeah.
my opinion.
Um.
Hmm.
I guess I'll take my stab at it.
Hmm.
Um. I am always. I try not to follow into crowds with thought processes and things. And for a long time, I was not necessarily paying attention to the Black Lives Matter movement. I respected it as what they were trying to do, but I felt it was a little too unorganized and a little too reactive,
Hmm.
where it would only pop up when something happens instead of being a consistent movement for change. But however, I agree that the when you see the video of what happened to George Floyd, you have to somewhat be inhuman to not look at that and say there's something wrong. And to hear the man cry out for his mother, and to hear the man say, I can't breathe. And this is not the first time it's something like this has been caught on tape, but this is the first time that this has been so egregiously. There's no, there was no reason for it. So, no reason that it went to that extent. And I think that most human beings can look at that, regardless of race, and say something is wrong. Like something like how that happened is, and it's elevated by the fact that it was people. Any one of those cops could have stopped it, you know, and maybe they would have taken a hit with their ranks or something, but they could have stopped it. And with stopping that, they they would have not been in jail right now like they are or been arrested.
Hmm.
So it's kind of um, I think that the protesting is a great thing. I think that's what this country is all about. We're founded on the idea of you don't like something, you disturb the peace a little bit to let the
Hmm.
government, a little bit or a lot of it, let the government know. Um, there are riots going around too. I am actually not. I like peaceful protesting. I do not think that the violent protesting is the way to go. But however, I understand it because somebody said a quote that violence, a violent protest is for people who haven't been heard. So it's
I
not
think
like
it's
it's
sorry. I think that was Martin Luther King who said,
right.
Riots are the voice of the unheard."
Right. So the voice of the unheard, and I get that. That makes sense because that means you've probably been out there peaceful protesting and nothing's happened. So you get, you get tired of it. Now there's, of course, there's always people that take advantage of it. Opportunists that, and it's unfortunate because a lot of the opportunists are young people, especially in this when our economy is not great, that they feel the need to destroy stores and steal things. I
Hmm.
totally disagree with that, and I think that destroys the message because there's always still two sides to this. There's people that are still pro police force and whatever, and they're just gonna and like our president, how he's arguing the looters in the riots because you can't give them that fuel. I feel like, and the opportunists give all I feel like all you need to get Trump going is just a little spark. He just needs something to
Hmm.
grab onto, and he'll run with it, and he runs with it very well. And his loyal base will follow him with whatever he says. It doesn't matter. Um, so to me, it's like I always feel like as black people or even people, you have to. Unfortunately, due to the microscope that we are under and the huge mountain that we have to fight, I feel like we have to hold ourselves. We have to be. We shouldn't have to, but we're under a bigger microscope when it comes to it. So it's almost like I don't know if you watched the movie 42, which was the Jackie Robinson movie,
I haven't
but
seen it.
it's a pretty good movie. It's a little predictable, but it's pretty good. Well, it's based off of someone's life, but yeah, but it's there's a scene in it where they're being racist to him, and the guy says, I didn't pick you just because you were the best. He says something like, I picked you because I knew you were strong enough not to retaliate, or somewhere along that line,
Hmm.
because that's you have to be. We have to be. I feel it's a shame to say it, but we shouldn't have to prove ourselves. Like, we shouldn't have to look better or act better than everyone else. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, we do, because we're a minority in a country that systems are not meant to protect us. We're not
Hmm.
meant to really climb out of poverty. We're not given the same, you like that great video that shows everybody running a race, but then they showed
Hmm.
I don't know if you've seen it, but they show uh, they take all the people that are running this race, and then by color or whatever, they move them up. They give them a head start in the race, like they move them up, and then they say this is like how life is, and then you see all
Hmm.
the black kids kind of to the back uh, of this race. So
Hmm.
we all might be running the same race, trying to be successful, but we don't all start in the same place. And
Hmm.
and it's no fault of the person running the race either. You're born into what you're born into, right? You're born, and that goes for being rich or poor. It's whatever it is, right? It's not equal. And I think that a lot of issues is that a lot of people believe, and I think a lot of people that are actually disgusted by what they see now, that are actually coming to it, they at some point believe that they might believe racism exists, but they kind of believe that, really, if you look deep, everything's equal. You work hard enough, you'll get to where you need to go, and that's just not true. And
Hmm.
I feel like this whole thing coming out now, um, it's I think it's fantastic. I never thought, like, you see it's all over the world, right? It's not even
Yeah.
just here, but I think that just shows how inhumane what happened really is. If people all over the world are protesting it, it
Hmm.
didn't, and um, I got to bring in the big not the contradiction, but the big thing that people that counter the argument of Black Lives Matter.
Hmm.
What's the counter argument? That people always like to say,
Oh, all lives matter.
all lives matter, right?
Uh, I hate that term.
You hate it. It makes you
I hate
mad.
it because it makes me mad. Yeah, because at the end of the day, even the term Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that no other lives matter. I
Right.
think it's the same, including other lives,
I'm
Black Lives Matter. But I think there's in this society there's such a visceral reaction to when you say something black, like black is a negative thing or black is like some type of like negative connotation
well.
that they have to react like, oh, all lives. And it's like, yeah, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about black lives right now. Like this is what's important
It's
because this is happening to us.
it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to explain all. I think it's hard to explain uh, Black Lives Matter to people that don't that try to single it like out as us putting Black lives above everybody's lives, which is not the point. The idea that all lives matter is kind of an idea that hasn't changed ever. If you at the way this country is supposed to be is every man created equal, whatever. So let's just say that's all lives matter. So under that same ideology or whatever, we see that when things happen to black people, not only that they happen to them, but the people usually don't pay the penalty, like a cop, or they get death duty
Hmm.
for killing a black guy, or they get the charges get dismissed, and
Or the
so
charges are light.
out of these all lives matter, the black ones seem to not matter as much. So hence the term Black Lives Matter, so that we can fit into all lives matter because we don't fit there. And that's but here's the thing, I think, and it's a deep mental, people that people to me feel like don't want to be excluded, and like they don't want to feel
Yeah,
that they're
left out.
not even that they're excluded, but they don't want to feel like especially okay. This is I feel like certain people in this country feel like this is their country.
Hmm.
You know what without saying it, but they feel like this is their country, and so when you say something that doesn't include them in it, you know, they're gonna lash out about it, and that's similar to like, they get.
The N word, for example, like if you like, we can like kind of
Oh yeah,
rules
and
where
then
we
we
say
can't use
we
it.
want we can use the N word, and then when they say how come we can't use the N word, then they get all a hissy fit because you're excluding them from something, and it's like what's going on? It's like, well, this is just for us. All languages probably have something like that, but for some reason the N word is something that
I'm
they get vehemently angry against that they can't use.
I'm still one of those people that I don't like any version of that word.
Hmm.
You don't ever hear me. I never say it because I just don't. For whatever reason, it sounds so close to the other one. I just don't.
Hmm.
I'm not. I don't own it. I just don't. I just don't. I don't know why. I've never
Hmm.
owned it. I never liked it.
It's fine. Yeah.
But it is what it is, and does have that power in our society. That word. But I just feel like you you know it's. I feel like okay, human nature is always gonna find its next thing to, that's gonna happen with inequality. And I feel like one of the things I tell a lot of people is that racism is bad, but racism is never going to end until everybody looks the
Yeah,
same.
that's
so,
pretty much it. And if
so
everyone looks the same, if everyone looks the same, then they'll discriminate by height.
yeah, then
You
they'll
know,
find something else.
if everyone's the same height,
And
then they'll discriminate by weight. If
and
everyone's the same weight, then discriminate by something.
and I think
Because
unfortunately that's
mhm,
part of the, I don't want to say beauty, but I think that's part of the that's
the
just
human
part of
psyche.
human nature, right? Like
Yeah,
we
because that's how we categorize things. I think that's just like a survival way. Like that's how,
because
not survival, but it's like everything's kind of like in a category in a way.
yeah, people talk about children aren't born racist, and I agree. I don't think
Hmm.
they're born with the idea that this color is worse than this color. That's learned
Hmm.
behavior. But what I do
Definitely.
think they
Hmm.
are, I think what all human beings are born with is the idea of using your eyes to differentiate between different things, right? You can
Hmm.
sort things. So what your brain does, and it's like part of it is a safety mechanism. Like you don't have time to process every little thing that's happening at all times. So
Hmm.
your brain says, I look at something and I place it in a zone where this is safe to pay attention to, or it's not safe, right? Like, you
Hmm.
see a group of people looking angry, you're not gonna ask each and every one, are they mad? You're gonna
Hmm.
assume, and you're gonna walk across the street, or you're gonna avoid it. So I think as human beings, like you said, we're gonna find something else that's not, and usually it's things that you don't understand or things you don't know that
Hmm.
you put into a different category. So you'll always look at somebody and say, they're different from you, and then from there you make your judgment based on whatever your values. So it's like people look at I play Overwatch or I play and the minute people hear a girl on the comms,
Hmm.
it's either we jump to like people jump to conclusions, the girl's bad, and all they can play is healer role, like because then it's true a lot of girls do play healer, and
Hmm.
or that you like something like
They're hot.
it's a disadvantage, or you have the other guys that are like
Hmm.
puppy dogging to a girl in it. And I think that's just human nature, right? Like so anytime
Yeah.
something different is gonna come,
Hmm.
you're just gonna act that way. But I think the idea of what we need to strive for in this country, because racism ain't going nowhere, and all it's gonna
Hmm.
do is gonna do it's gonna become the worst kind of racism, which is hidden. you
Hmm.
know, because trust me, these people ain't gonna wake up as people that are racist
Hmm.
ain't gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, this is wrong.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Some might,
It's,
but
I feel like it's one of those things that's always going to exist,
right.
and I think the only way to protect ourselves as Black people is through economic power. That's what I always believe in is like if we start creating more, if we retain more things of our own, and build communities up from it, then I think we'll stand a better chance against what goes on because
I
if mhm.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, because I feel like with other races or ethnicities or whatever, however you want to label them, they have strong economic power, and you know that's how they're able to sustain themselves in America. And if by doing wrong to, let's say, somebody, if they can pull their money back from something or from whatever they're investing in, then that can be a detriment. That can be a loss of money.
I,
So a lot of times, most companies don't even want to lose that. So I believe that if we can have stronger economic power, that would be a way.
I think that's yeah. I think that's
Mhm,
part of it, but I think that I think I think that's part in getting to where we need to be. But I think the issue needs to be. I think we live in a society that has rules, and
mhm,
the issue is that the rules don't seem to matter for certain people, and
mhm,
partially, like you said, it's economic. It's either if you commit a crime and you have a shit lawyer, then
mhm,
you might not get away. But if you have a great lawyer, you never you could get off, or you know what I
mhm,
mean. Like, you don't a public defender ain't gonna get you shit, but a great lawyer
mhm,
will get you, out of anything. So
mhm,
the idea is that this is like how I look at it, and this is what I try to look at everything. I don't think that those four cops that did what they did to Floyd.
George Floyd. Mhm,
I don't think those four cops woke up that morning and said, "How am I gonna get fired today and end up in jail?" I think what happened is that part of the issue with police or people in power in general, is that power corrupts, right? It just
mhm,
when you're above the law, you feel like you can get away with things. So what they were doing was something that was done before, and like the punishment was death duty or whatever.
mhm.
He didn't die until they didn't pronounce him dead until like he left the scene in the hospital or whatever. And so to
But we
me,
saw that he was clearly dead from
well,
that
he
video.
was he was definitely unconscious, and he was pretty much,
Mhm,
yeah, he was going to die. Um, I think that those, like, you get used to living living with that kind of power and the ability to make those decisions, and without the kind of repercussions that should happen.
mhm,
Because I want to wholeheartedly believe, unless they were super racist or whatever, or whoever, I believe that it's the hindsight thing. Like, if they knew that was gonna happen, would they have done that? I don't think they would have.
mm.
I
I
feel
don't know.
like I don't think you just wake up one day and throw away your whole life. I don't think that's what I don't.
I don't
And
know. For someone to stay on someone's neck even after they're crying, I can't breathe. I can't. They're screaming out in pain, and they're on their neck. I think you have to be a very inhuman person
no,
to let that
I'm
happen.
not. I'm not saying that they aren't inhuman. I'm
Even
saying
if, even if, even if
I'm
it's not
saying
premeditated, I think that shows his
no, but
character.
I'm saying I don't.
Mhm,
I'm not arguing his character, because this is what I'm trying to tell you. I'm arguing the fact that he did that in terms of, because he didn't think that that this would happen. I don't think that he thought
he
whether
thought
the
he could get
guy.
away with
Right. I
it. Mhm,
think that that's the mindset, that we can do this because we have power. We're cops. He's you know, because this is it's being recorded too. It's
yeah.
not like he's doing it inside someone's, like, if he took that guy and took him into the cop car somehow and then did that this outrage still wouldn't have been the way it is now. It wouldn't have been.
That's true
And
because you can't see it.
right. And so my whole thing is, like, I feel like the issue that we have to do is that there needs to be that fear that the actions of what these people do will be
Mhm,
swiftly punishable. Like, that's the thing.
exactly.
That's
Mhm,
because that's where we have to get to. We have to get to the, because you ain't gonna stop racist. People are gonna be
mhm,
racist to, but
exactly.
they need to go to the point. It has to be to the point where when they want to think about doing something racist to somebody, that they're
You
gonna
gotta
be
think
like, well,
twice,
damn.
3 times, 4 times, 5 times.
You,
You better think really hard
you're
about
gonna
that.
think about it like, damn, this is good. This, if I do this, I'm going to jail for whatever. Cause, like, look at the Arbery situation.
Mhm.
That happened in
They weren't
February.
even cops. Those are people.
One was an ex
The
detective
father,
or something like that.
yeah, accidentally,
But
they had
but
connections.
but you look at that. First of all, it happened in February, and then
Mhm,
once the video got released, then people lost their shit, and then they made arrests. Now, the whole thing about that, though, is that they said, oh yeah, we ended up. It was a citizen's arrest. It was
Mhm.
you know, and they were living kind of fine until
Yeah, all they had to say was, "Oh, we had a rash of
he
robberies
and
here."
he was
And mind you, there was no robberies reported. There was only one robbery reported in the area in January,
right.
and it was actually the son who reported it because he had left his gun in the car, and then someone stole it
Right.
like a
And
like a dummy.
and
So that's the only one that was reported in
and
that area.
and that's the thing. It's just that there's you like this country just has to really say, okay, we have this problem, obviously this problem
Mhm.
where racism and cops or people in general abuse black people for whatever reason, whatever they think black people are doing, or they're a scourge on our communities or whatever. But
Mhm.
they are allowed to punish us without
Retribution.
yeah. And once you feel safe, it's like, do you feel like you're gonna go to jail because you're gonna step outside on an ant? No, so
Mm-mm.
you don't think twice about it. And that's
Exactly.
what I mean. And what me and you going through life, we think twice about everything because we know how easy it is for us to get in trouble. I
Mhm.
I have a, for instance, a great example is Justin J Bell and me, you, and J Bell or whatever.
Mhm.
And I love J Bell, and but I always can tell J Bell has a very free spirit, right? Our
Mhm.
room, for those who don't know, Justin was our roommate. He was a white boy, great guy. Um, he was a free spirit, and he had a way about going through life without fear that
Mhm.
I feel like you, me, and whoever else don't quite couldn't quite. I don't know. Maybe you don't feel that way, but I always felt like living with him in Brooklyn, some of the things he did, and just in college when I went to college with him, that he didn't have this fear of getting in trouble for things. He told me he used, he like blew up a car, and like this was when he was way back, but like.
Wow.
It was an abandoned car, but you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying. But in me, if I was with them, I'd be like, no, I because I have a
Mhm.
fear of spending time in jail or just getting in trouble
Mhm.
with the cops, which I
Mhm.
think a lot of people that aren't black don't have that fear
Exactly. You don't think
because
about
you don't think about it. You don't think, you're not going to get pulled over while driving most of the time. You don't have that
it.
same
Mhm.
fear. I think y'all need to have that fear. That's why.
Mhm.
Now it's not going to be the same because people still are going to judge people by what they see,
Exactly.
there still needs to be some thought process that allows that person that's on someone's neck to say, "Wait a minute." Not that I don't care about this motherfucker my neck is on, because he obviously didn't care. But then he
Mhm.
said, "But could he say, do I want to spend my time in jail?" You know,
Mhm.
because what you could tell by the process of what happened is is what they expected. Like, think about it like this: in his head, maybe his head is the worst thing that's gonna happen is I'm gonna get fired. You
Mhm.
saw the way you saw the way it went down.
And,
It didn't.
and by fire, he really means transferred because you can just go to another
Yeah,
police department afterwards.
he literally. It took all this outrage. Then they were fired. It weren't
Mhm.
fired instantly. It was
And they
never.
weren't charged. They weren't fired. They
They
weren't
weren't charged.
charged.
And this
It was
happened.
only Chauvin, the gentleman, not gentleman. I should use the word that thug who killed George Floyd. Something Chauvin. I can't believe
Yeah,
I'm
who
forgetting his
cares?
name.
Let's not. Who cares what his
But
name is?
yeah, but he at first got charged, and then the three other officers
But
who was on the scene got charged as well
but what
later on
I'm trying to say, like, yeah, exactly. Later on, how the time it took
after the riots.
for yes, this all, but that's the thing. Like, if none of this happened, if the riots didn't happen, and
Hmm.
then these guys might have at worst been fired. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that's the thing. So to me, he's doing this, and in his head, he's probably thinking the worst that could happen is like he'll get in trouble of some sort and fired. I don't,
Hmm.
if he had the fear of, oh my god, like let's say the penalty for that was death. You think he would have been
Hmm.
done? You think he would have
Well,
done
hell
that?
no, he
Right.
would have got off.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. So like it does.
lose your pension, death. Hell no.
Racist or not, I think it got to be that idea in their heads that you can't do this. You're not gonna stop people from being racist, and you're not gonna stop, like, black people are still always gonna be picked on, just like we're picked on in our own damn community by ourselves. We're like, I
Hmm.
feel like we're always gonna be a target because
Hmm.
that's just we're just unfortunate. Dark people are always a target in every society. Brazil, you're just a target. You know,
Well,
but
yeah, because
but
that's because of they
it's
kind of go back,
yeah, it
you
goes
know,
back from it's all slavery. It's all just it's the way people look at
like the whitewashing of people's minds and
right.
everything to think.
You
Because I
media,
guarantee when we lived in Africa, no one was thinking about like dark and everything. You know what I mean? I think it was just the European
but you know
mindset
what?
when they took slave. They put it on the hierarchy to make it seem like being lighter is better
but
than being dark.
I could almost I don't know like much about African culture, but I can assure
Mm-hmm.
you that there's probably some parts in Africa, even before this, that the darker you are, they'll look at you like differently than another tribe. You know, like another tribe might not be so dark.
Because I feel like at some point, if that was the case, then I don't know. I always feel like if that was the case, then it would be like, how should I say, noted, or you would see like you wouldn't see as many dark people going, in the
Not that
world.
it's bad or anything. I just think, like I said, it's just being different, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just looking at someone and
But
saying they're different.
if everyone in Africa is dark, or
But
whatnot,
not
I don't
everybody
really.
is the same shade of dark over there.
That's true.
That's
That's true.
what I
That maybe
mean.
not the same shade, but I think European society is the only society where they ranked you based on like your hierarchy was dependent on your skin color. I think they were the first.
Well, look at it this
Um,
way. This is what I mean by like it's just like people are so judgmental about what they see. It's like in the early 20th century here, in the
mhm,
early 1900s, uh, people were racist. White people were racist against other white people. I mean, when you take a look at if you were Irish or you were
mhm,
like Italian,
mhm.
you were you were there's signs and stuff that said like no Irish allowed in here. There were things like that in this country. You know
But
what I
you know
mean?
what? Yeah, but it all changed when they wanted to,
Well,
go against black people.
no,
That's
no.
when they're like, okay,
I'll say this. Well, what happens
mhm,
is then they start to realize like, well, we're all pretty similar looking, So let's, we're at least all better than these guys, and then
exactly.
they kind of joins together. But that's the
Mhm,
thing. But like, even amongst white people, they'll be racist amongst themselves if given.
mhm,
I think in general, I don't think, and I'm not saying just white people, black people. I think this applies to them too. I think this applies to
mhm,
everybody. Asian, come on, like I remember a good story is when I was in when I went away to boarding school.
mhm,
Uh, I had Korean roommate, and I heard stories about there was a lot of Korean kids at my school and Taiwanese kids.
mhm.
Um, and the year before I got there, there was a Japanese kid there, and I heard that people were telling me that the racism between the Korean kids against this Japanese kid was so bad that like it was just they picked on him.
Yeah, I
They,
think Japan and Korea have a really
right.
kind of a rough history. I think because I believe was it did Japan take over Korea at some point or something like that? I'm
Well,
not really familiar with Asian culture, but I remember they do have like
yeah, they do.
they had tie tensions because I know that they currently do business with each other, but there are certain things like certain shows, like if they're coming from like Japan, like an anime, for example, or a TV show coming from Japan to Korea,
But
if it has strong elements of like Japanese culture, they won't show it
right,
in Korea.
and
They'll up front of the season or whatnot that has something a little bit more generic
and then
or
and my roommate said also like he hates North Koreans. Like
mhm,
like so to me, that's never gonna change. People are gonna just hate people for whatever reason. And really, whatever if it changes from one thing, it'll just go into another. It's like some people that will fat shame people, or you're supposed to look a certain way. Like if you're fat, you're this, you're that, or if you're skinny, you don't do it. Nobody likes flat butts anymore, or whatever. You know what I mean?
mhm,
There's always some visual thing that sets people on to whether they like something or not. And like as me as personal as someone who dates outside of my race a lot, um,
mhm,
I constantly you can't how often you hear you're black, you should date black, or you should what I mean? And
mhm,
that drives me crazy because not that I
mhm,
don't like black women, but I like all sorts of women. So to feel like I'm locked into something or I have to
mhm.
represent something, you know what I'm saying? There's so much
Yeah.
thought process. But anyway, let's get off the point. So let's
I
kind of
mean,
finish this,
the way I want to end this is that
and then we can talk
my
about
hope.
other things.
is that these officers who killed this man, this unarmed man,
They rot.
um,
They rot in
I-
jail.
they not only they rot in jail, or or at least Chauvin gets the death penalty. I don't give a damn about him, but I think there needs to be serious consequences, because right now everyone's kind of rioting and kind of doing everything. And as you mentioned before, I don't agree with the rioting, but I understand why it's happening.
I
And
agree
in
with
fact,
the
most
rioting.
change,
It's the
most
it's the
the
looting.
violence,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
the
the
looting,
looting.
yeah.
I don't
I
agree
mean,
with.
rioting, yeah, not the. I don't care about the looting or hurting innocent people, but what I'm going to
Rioting,
say,
we get it. Yeah, yeah. We get the.
what I'm going to say is
Mm-hmm.
that in history, anytime there was going to be a change, it always followed with these riots. You know what I mean? Like I can we can go back to the 1920s. I think there was like a Ford plant that didn't provide I don't know, a union for their workers. So they rioted and destroyed the town. I think it was like the Ford. It's either a Ford or some kind of car company, but I believe it might have been Ford. And then after they rioted and trashed the town, they ended up getting a union. So um, it's human nature in a way. This is not. I don't think. I think too many times we think that we're an apex of humanity when we're really not.
No.
I feel like there's so much work we have to be done, and within 10, 20 years, we'll look back at this and be like, "Damn, that's the way the world was."
Or we
So
might not. We might look 10 back and realize that ain't shit much changed. That's a
that's
scary thing.
true. Think about it. If you look at the 1960s, like there was somebody who was, I think it was like a little gag they were doing, but it was true. There was a woman who walked in the Civil Rights March, and then she recently came out during these Black Lives Matter march, and she said, she had a sign that said, "I was in the Civil Rights March, and I'm still, marching for the same damn thing." So it kind of goes to show that, sometimes there may be lip service, but there's no action, and
And
we
this
can
is,
see,
and I think part of it too, we could go all day. But
yeah.
like, if I had to say one thing to people, is that you have to know the battlefield. And the battlefield isn't just these protests. The battlefield is your government systems. It's going out and people think this stuff doesn't matter, but it really does. It's who we put in an office, and I'm not talking about on a presidential scale. I'm
Mhm.
talking about your local leaders and stuff, your local congressman, your local district attorney. Like these people are the ones that send people to jail. These are the ones that push forward for things to change. These are the ones that put the funding into certain programs. We don't. Most people just kind of vote for every 4 years for the president, and then talk. But you live in a place, and you have to at least try to put who you want in office. The people that you feel that will listen to you, whether they do or not, is a whole nother story. But you gotta really pay attention to. And I think as a community, we feel like we have such little impact that we don't care. We feel like a lot of people say, I've heard some things like Obama didn't do shit for me, so why? There's kind of that kind of mindset that like we're supposed to get a reparation check because we put them in office or something. Like people feel like that you put someone in office and they're just supposed to change everything, and that's not it. It's system. It's a crooked, flawed system, but we have to at least try to change the system from within before because like you said, if we
For
once
me,
all the emotion dies down from all this, it could slip right back into the same way. You know what I
exactly.
mean? Right now, emotions are high and people are expecting things, but once all this, because it's emotion. A lot of this is emotion, and emotions fade, feelings fade, and then where
I don't
where
even
are we?
think it's emotion. I think it's more that
It's
we want
emotion,
to see a true change, but we won't see a true change
but it's
until we see these court dates and we see what they're not charged, but they're
right.
convicted of. I
But
think that's the end game, because we had similar situation that happened last year with Jean, both from Jean, and it was the first time, maybe not the first, I don't know the first time, but
okay,
when a few instances where a cop got charged or got convicted, but the sentence personally to me was lighter than it should have been, and I think that was because the family was like showing forgiveness or whatever. But what I was trying to say is that I think
uh,
what we have to see is punishment at the end of the day. I think,
I
like you said, if there's a penalty, if there's a huge price to pay,
then you
I
won't do
think
it, right?
they will do it, and I think
But
that's what I want to see at the end.
But what I want to say when I say emotion though, it's the reason that we got this far is because people are mad. People
Mhm.
are angry. Riots happen when people are angry. But
Exactly.
but what I'm trying to say is when that anger doesn't, like, for most people, anger isn't something that lasts for a long time. It goes away. That's why I was trying to say before with the protest before, is it's just feelings like that are reactionary. Something happens, then you get mad. Then you usually, sometimes that anger does create some things. But I feel like the way the system is built for the long haul, it needs more than just changes that happen from reactions. It has to, I think I'm saying, like, it has to be a deeper systematic change that we have to do when we're not angry. Like, I think we have to do something. We have to
As you said, the
continually,
system. Mhm.
like, when you said build economic stuff, I think that's part of it. Like, I think, like, when you said
Mhm.
that, that's part of doing something, not when you're angry, but doing, just supporting the our businesses and our whatever. I think that's part of,
Mhm.
like, I think that's a bigger step to take, because yeah, these guys need to pay, the law needs to be in place and all that too, but I also feel like we have to kind of continually make steps forward. We only take steps forward for something when we get angry, and then we slowly get pushed back without even noticing, because we're caught up in whatever else that, we're not focused. Like, nobody cared, like, not nobody cared, let me not say nobody cared about anything, but, like, these movements should have been all, like, not that it should have always been happening, but, like, it finally hit a point where people got so mad that something had to change. But,
Mhm.
like, how, when are we, like, human beings always get, like, kind of docile after a while. Like, you see all the stories where, oh, peace was great for 100 years, and then the people grew soft, and then an invading army comes and takes over. So I'm just saying, like, we need to stay sharp. We need to stay kind of going forward with it.
Mhm.
But anyway, I think
So
this was a great talk so far. We are
that's
43 minutes in.
it's a lot to unpack. It's
But
very
but
long-winded.
we said our statements on it. I like it.
Yeah,
We put it out there how we feel.
definitely. But the reason why I did want to talk about this was also because, as you know, during that same week when all this was happening, Sony was going to originally unveil their PS5 showcase, I believe, or I believe the system,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken correctly, on June 4th. But because of everything, they decided to take a step back and delay the release to now July 11th. I'm sorry, June 11th.
Hmm.
And after these protests happened, I know that Sony put out a statement, and then other video game companies followed suit. Essentially, to kind of sum up what they're saying is that they feel the tragic pain of what happened to George Floyd and the and that they stand with the black community, and some companies were donating some of their some to certain organizations, like if it's not Black Lives Matter, but it'll be like another social organization. So I was surprised to see the response from so many companies, showing that kind of acknowledging that they reject you know biases, racism, and things like that. We got it from even Nintendo, who's usually kind of like out of stays out of certain things like that. They put out a statement on their Instagram, um, you know, condoning the racism and
Hmm.
prejudice that happens. And you got it from Xbox, Microsoft, Sega, they 2K. A lot of these companies put out these kind of statements. Respawn. So, and some companies actually um, this can pause their online services for about 8 minutes in honor of George Floyd, in
Hmm.
respect to what George Floyd has to say. I think GTA did that, and a couple of other games suspended their online services for 8 minutes or so, in respect to George Floyd. So it's kind of interesting to see this happen because I never really witnessed that before, especially in gaming. So
Hmm.
I wanted to know, like, your opinion, with all you know, these huge changes happening in society, and these game companies, being keen to what's going on. Do you feel like this will change gaming
No.
from this point? Do you see this
No.
change?
No.
Mhm,
No. This is what I think about that. I think
mhm,
some companies are affected by this. I think they really feel it. I feel like other companies know if they don't say something, that people are gonna say, why did they say something? I think a lot of this is reactionary in terms of we have to put a statement out. I was checking my emails, and everything from Planet Fitness to bodybuilding to this has released a statement about condoning this. So really, to me, it's I look at it two ways.
Mhm.
I think that companies are companies at the end of the day, and they're about their bottom line. So so they have to put out these messages. I feel like, because they don't want to be on the wrong side of this company didn't say anything, so don't support them anymore. And then they have to scramble quickly and put something out because there was so many of these messages. Some of these
Mhm.
messages feel very stock and very, but it's fine. Some messages like the Ben and Jerry's message felt heartfelt,
Mhm.
like somebody in there really cares. You know what I mean? And like EA, I like when I logged on to I played Apex Legend. Right there, it
Mhm.
smacks you right in the face. Black Lives Matter. Like right on the right when you log in, it just says it, and then their message is right in game. When I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Um,
I think even Call of Duty did the same thing.
I
When you
think
log
it's
into Call of Duty, they
yeah,
had Black Lives message as well.
I think it's cool that it's hit a point where we're aware. Part of it scares me only because I think and I'm talking out of my ass. I'm not a politician. I don't know how everything works.
Mhm.
But I think part of the reason Trump got elected, is it was a backlash. It was a progressive backlash. He said, "Make America great again, back to the old ways of you know what we're trying to fight against right now." Really, of course he's going to say it's economy and it's all this, but it's also you know kind of a white supremacist looking kind of America. It's that America great again. Keep all the foreigners out. You know,
And to bring that up, I don't sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but you know how we always talk about how nostalgia works for like video games and like TV and things like that.
nostalgia just
It works the
works.
same, it works the same way as in social issues
It
too,
works
because
for
you
everything.
say make America great again. People are probably thinking about the good old days when they were younger, and I think most people, for the most part, may have a good childhood. Most people
Well,
on average would say would have a good time childhood, but good adulthood. Like they probably remember simpler times when they were probably younger. So they look back at that, and it makes them yearn
I
for yesterday
I would
or
just say
yesterday.
what it does is it makes them. There was a time where there was a time when one of the things, and I don't 100% like PC being politically correct. I
Hmm.
think because now you can't. I think some people yearn for a time when you can just say anything and
Exactly.
not lose your damn job for it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, and I
Or
think
you
people.
can, or you can hang somebody and not get in trouble.
We're not going that. But you're right
I'm
though.
just saying,
But like,
I'm not wrong.
what I'm trying to say is like I think that there was a point where like when Obama was around or whatever, you want to say like, you know, the country was getting progressive. Things were much more openly allowed, and so conservative comes in, they kind of step it back. But I think Trump won because a lot of people say that he spoke for the silent majority.
Hmm.
That now a lot of white people in general, to me, were at a point where they couldn't say anything, even if they were joking or whatever. They had to be politically correct and everything. Like here's an example that kind of I was like, oh wow, this. Oh, so you remember Brandon, right? Gibby.
Uh, yes.
And he went to college. So we had a friend who went to college and became an RA in a dorm.
Hmm.
And he said at his college, you couldn't say the word freshman anymore because
Really?
the word men in it
Hmm.
was, so now you had to say something else, but it wasn't freshman.
Fresh person?
I don't know, but when I heard that, I said, get the fuck out of here, you know,
Hmm.
or like even like I'm not condoning this, but growing up we used to say all the time, oh that's gay, you know.
Yeah.
Now you can't say that.
Oh, definitely not.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
he Trump came along and started saying all this stuff, and it kind of saying it straight up, and not and people said, yeah, let's get back to that when we could just we didn't have to be politically correct about everything. And so he represents that really kind of thinking, I feel like. And a lot of Americans, especially after Obama and having a black president for the first time or whatever, wanted a little bit of taste of we had to step it back. We had to pull it
Mm-hmm.
back. And he represented that. And I feel like, I feel like that's what I don't know. I just feel like
I mean, yeah, I agree where you're coming from, but I would say there's only one good thing about this administration is that now that people are out and open with it, I rather have them be out and open with it so I can avoid them rather than them internalize it and try to hide it and do
oh,
things,
and that's what I was
you
trying to
know,
get to. That's what I was trying to get to.
maliciously. Because I think when if like you said, if it during Obama, let's say theoretically during the Obama administration, they know there's certain things they can't say or certain things they can't feel, they'll internalize it and they'll do their, I guess,
They'll put it
deeds
into the system, like I said.
and put it in the system. But
But
if someone's out and open with it, I can be like, you know what, that person's like this, and not that you should judge anybody because but if you really don't like, for example, if someone doesn't like a black person, I would say good day to you. I would never convince them to like black people. I would never convince them. I would never cry to them. I would never be like, you gotta love everybody. I'd
yeah,
be
if
like, you
you
know
don't
what?
like
Go to
someone, you don't.
conventions. You don't like me. You don't like me. You don't like black people. Then you know what? Thank you for letting me know. I'm gonna be out of your way. I won't interact with you. Thank you.
Yeah, but
So,
my whole thing is
mhm.
like, even if like you don't like you're not gonna like you shouldn't feel like obligated to like people for whatever reason. If you don't like someone because
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
like someone, that's that's your right as a person. You don't like it's like not liking a certain type
mhm,
of food. If you just don't like it, you don't like it. Now,
mhm,
but you shouldn't be able to systemically oppress something you don't like
mhm,
for
mhm,
reasons because you don't like them, right? So, but what I kind of fear is that when I feel like the world works in a kind of a yin yang, so I feel like
mhm.
we're pushing forward here, but the rage and anger from other people on the other side, they're not saying something, but they're building up as well. Police
Mhm.
officers and all those, there's a lot of then you got people talking about the American flag, which has nothing to do with anything, but
Mhm.
you want to throw that in there. So you're gonna. I think when this calms down, you're gonna get a pushback, or unfortunately, the pushback could be another 4 years of Trump. Because to me, I feel like if Trump wins again, a lot of this was for nothing.
Mhm.
Because
I
that,
mean, I think personally, I don't subscribe to any um particular party, you know, but I will say that what the Democrats have compared to, and I don't want to turn this to like political, I guess, but this is what I'm seeing. Their candidate Joe Biden isn't
I don't even
so
care
hot
about
either.
him. I don't care about
And
him either.
exactly, and a lot of people don't care about him, and I think a lot of people kind of see kind of like the okey doke of what's going, of like the Democrats. So
I mean,
I feel like
and it's so bad because it's like even being this is some of the stuff they say about extreme, and like you said, we're not political, but some of the stuff they say about extreme left is just as
mhm.
like is just as bad as the extreme right. Like they're both on
Because
both sides. It's like it's bad. I feel like I'm just
you know what,
saying on both sides of the spectrum, they're just as bad as each other, and I think that I feel like just we're so far to the right with Trump on one side. I feel like we need to we gotta, especially with all these protests, we gotta rein that in a little bit.
so
But we'll see how that
so
goes.
so to kind of bring it back to video games. So you already mentioned that you don't feel like there's going to be a change. You think that it was just like companies
No,
just kind
yeah,
of,
I don't. I mean, yeah, they might,
and it's okay to feel like that because
they
I
might
think there
hire a
is.
few more people black. I don't think it's gonna be. We're not gonna
I,
start seeing more black characters in games and stuff like that. I don't like if that's what you're looking for.
I, I will say this. I think that there has been a precedent
Mm.
for being on the right side of history, and I think Nike kind of showed that because when Nike kind of backed Colin Kaepernick, and they made him like an exclusive their exclusive apparel, Colin Kaepernick apparel, their stock rose up and their sales increased. You know, I don't know about how much, but
But
exponentially,
but
and they made a lot of money off of that. I don't know how long. I didn't know how. I know it happened like as soon as they, made the announcement that there were these Colin Kaepernick apparel, and I don't know how long it lasted for or if it continued. But they showed a significant boost in terms of their sales. So I think a lot of companies may have seen that and said,
Yeah,
let's put up
that's
a
what I was.
statement and said, and like you said, I'm kind of agreeing with you. Like you said,
It's a business.
said,
It's
hey,
business.
what? Let's show them that we're on this side of history, so that later on, if they do decide to come to us or buy a product, they know that we stand with them. And I think it feeds off human emotion as well, like in terms of marketing, because if you know that a certain company views aligns with what your views are or what your views of justice is, you'll feel kind of better buying their products, or you'll probably be more inclined to do more. Like you said, oh, I want to buy a game.
Yeah,
Let me buy 2 games, or let me buy the DLC pack because these guys are great because they give
whether
you a warm feeling.
and whether they really are great or not doesn't even matter. It's
Mhm.
just you.
Exactly.
It's just
It's what they make you feel.
It's the perception that they are, and then you'll just go, oh yeah, these guys wrote a message, so I'm down. That's why I truly believe like everything is all about money anyway. If we had more money than everybody else, we'd be more popular.
That's why I always say economic power is very important.
So, but
To me, it's the most important thing. That's my opinion.
I agree. I think it is. It's unfortunate, but I think
No, it's true.
when you have money, you have all sorts of options for things, pushing agendas that
Mhm.
you couldn't have without it. And it's just
Mhm.
it wouldn't even matter the color of your skin. If you had a gajillion dollars, you would have a lot more friends, I'm sure. But let's
But I also
we're
wanted
hitting an
to.
hour. We're at the hour
Okay,
mark.
I also want to. What was I gonna say?
You don't even know.
Damn, because you interrupted me while I was talking.
Yeah. Uh huh.
Yeah. Um. I was gonna mention.
Um.
Let me just pause so that I can cut
Uh.
it. Yeah, lip service, blah blah. But I will say this in terms of I will say this in terms of characters. Like I think they've already been trying to make more diverse characters even
Mhm.
before this. Like for example, Apex Legends. They have like
Overwatch, Apex, yeah, they have
Overwatch.
very
Yeah,
diverse
they have
rosters.
very diverse characters. So I feel like there is a push for it. There's been a push for it already. I like to see how this would affect it. Like you said, it could be just lip service for now,
Mhm.
or maybe it could be, something more, prominent down the line. But I think it's only, it's for us to see. I believe with this, they may try to highlight more black developers because I do know there's a lot of black developers who probably don't get a lot of attention, and I think maybe they might, maybe who knows, maybe next February for Black History Month, they may try to highlight black developers, or they may try to ramp up getting black developers this year to prepare for Black History Month
I wouldn't know
2020.
unless I do research into these companies hiring, and that's why, like, for me, I'm like, yeah, maybe. I don't.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
wouldn't.
we're all guessing. We don't know. I don't know what's going on, and it's just happened recently, so we don't even know what the long game is. But I think if they see that this thing, this outcry, what's going on, they're paying attention to that, and I think they're trying to convert that into users. They're trying to convert that into like a customer base.
Yeah, money.
So
Give me money.
exactly. So it would. I find it. I think it would be fascinating to see them try to say, "Hey, we have a black showcase of black developers. Here you go." And this proves our commitment to diversity and whatever buzzwords they want to use at the time. Diversity, black, black creators and things like that. So I think, you know, we may see that down the line because of these reactions because I believe because from last time I did research and this is a while ago, you know, black people play a lot of video games, but we're I think we're less than maybe 2% or 1% of the people who create them, at least for the big publishers, So I believe, we're a huge install base, but we're not the ones creating the games. And I feel like
I mean, you gotta look at numbers though, because like when you say a huge
I'm,
install base,
I'm sorry,
like
yeah, you're right.
you got to think
It's,
about
it's
it.
mhm,
If we're the minority in this country and we're at what are we 12? Like we're like 13% of this country.
mhm,
How huge is that really? I mean, maybe within us we play a lot. Like maybe there's a lot more in terms of our percentage, but we're
mhm,
still like that's the reason why. God, that's the reason why it's like when you advertise on TV, it doesn't matter. Like a show like Blackish, doesn't matter how many black people watch it. It matters how many middle American people watch it, because when you're
Hmm.
talking about the advertisements, that's what they need. The commercials keep shows on, so they need viewers. They do it by demographic and area and stuff like that. They don't need us watching the show, because we're not the
Hmm.
target for going out and buying certain things. That's why certain times of days you see different advertisements, right? Because they're targeting this, and commercials pay for these shows to stay on air. So
Hmm.
to me, when you look at the numbers, we're unfortunately, due to being a minority, which is kind of ridiculous in the first place because we're just American, right? But anyway, due to being a minority, we are not. We do have an impact. I'm not gonna say like we do have financial impact.
Yeah,
Like,
I think our impact even goes past financial. I think we have a cultural impact because whatever we make cool trends. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah,
think
but I think
we move the needle in terms of popular
I
acts. I mean,
I agree,
popular
but
art, popular acts. I think we're the ones who really move it, and if we deem it to be popular, it's going to kind of follow suit.
I just think that even I still think everything just comes down to finance, and it's almost like if you're focus testing, obviously like when you're done designing a game, unless it's so story based, um, even Japanese developers, a lot of like things like they create things and the main character is not Japanese man. It's usually like
A generic.
generic kind of white looking guy man. Or if you look at most game franchises, it's
But that's
it's
anime in a way, though. I mean, that's Japan in a way because
no, I
most of
get
their
it.
anime.
Yeah, yeah. They don't look like a lot of the anime characters don't look Japanese, like Brock
And I think that
from
comes down
Pokemon.
to being such a homogeneous country that they have to, make these characters look a
Yeah,
little bit different.
but I also
You know?
feel like I just feel like the world, the most of the people buying stuff is in America,
Yeah, yeah,
Europe,
of course. Hmm.
and so you got to target, and like this is why I said this is why Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse was so powerful for me, because after watching that film, it says something about seeing someone of your own color doing it. And
Hmm.
so if you take that, now granted, that's great for me, but I don't only count as 13%, right? Like, so if
Hmm.
you wanna really hit people, you're gonna have to target, unfortunately, the largest audience always. It's just smart business.
That's why you see him tag along with a whole bunch of other people
So it's
instead of
like
having the
if you
movie
look,
just by
but
himself.
but if you look at that movie and it
Hmm.
didn't do great in the ball, it didn't do as great as any of the other Spider-Man films.
Hmm.
Partially, it could have been because it was an animated film. I think that's a part of it. But
Hmm.
to me, it just shows it. It almost furthers that message. Like I would have, I it furthers my message in terms of seeing
Can you hear me?
yeah. It furthers your message of seeing
Hello?
yourself. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I was saying seeing yourself or someone similar to you in a role, it
Hmm.
allows you to almost play out that role, more so than if it was a person of different color. And I think, unfortunately, since Caucasian and stuff are most of the targets, they're gonna more likely. Now, granted, you're gonna still have some CJs and whatever characters coming, but this is a whole another discussion. We are running long, bro. I'm
Hmm.
ready to call it kind of quits right now.
All right,
Um,
no problem.
we
I just want to end it that I hope to see from this point on, like even though I say I feel like the companies may be just doing lip service, I hope there is
I like
more
it though.
tangible action.
I like it
I like that they pay attention to it, and they're seeing that people are paying attention to it. It's hard to miss.
because they didn't
Like
have to say anything, regardless.
exactly.
So they
But
said
they
something.
said it, and I feel like hopefully there'll be more of a chance given to black developers, black creators, and black designers. There's more of I hope there's also more of a scope put on black gamers, and I do like that especially with Xbox because not Xbox in general, but like certain games are prone to like having these kids online just scream the N word all the time. I don't know if it still happens as much because I don't,
I think they
I
just
know
need
it
to
happens
be.
a lot.
I think they need to be reported and banned instantly. They can check to see
Exactly.
that, and I think that
Mhm.
just don't accept it at all. Overwatch is pretty good. We
Mhm.
report me and Ray and everyone. We report people, and I think they
Mhm.
ban a lot of people
But
because
I was also going to ask you too before when you used to play on Xbox. Did you notice an influx of that,
oh,
like back
it
in
was
the
all the
few
time.
days?
It was all the time. It's
Hmm.
actually I don't know. I think it was worse back then because I think nowadays people still do it. Like I have someone like when they know you're streaming.
Hmm.
And if you write it in the chat like you're streaming, they'll just come out and say nigga, nigga, nigga. You know, they'll say that so that you, because if your stream is, if that word appears on your stream, even if it's
Hmm.
not you saying it, you could get banned.
Mm.
So they just say that because Twitch would be like, oh, that word, they'll just ban it. They don't even care why, who's setting it or whatever. So sometimes they'll just type it in chat or whatever. Like
Mhm.
it's really So but I feel like in Xbox days it was a lot more rampant. Um, but even today, no, let me not even say this. It's sometimes it's just some people's go-to. The minute they hear you talking, they don't like it. They
Mhm.
just go. It's the N word. It's just right out the bat.
Mhm.
And I know at least on Overwatch, we've reported it, and every time I report it, you get a notification that recent actions you've done have resulted in someone's account getting whatever. So I've
Mhm.
noticed that usually when we hear that and that's when I report, I think they don't tolerate it. I think
I'm
and
glad
that's
to hear
great because before they did not care. Xbox kind of you could say it and they didn't really do much, but
that.
now I think they'll do much. I wanted to say one thing before we get off
Mhm.
that we can talk about next time, but Streets of Rage 4, bruh,
All right, you know what? Let's leave this at a cliffhanger because I
nah,
do
bro.
want to create. I do want to have an episode where we discuss
Can
this
I say
because
the
I
one
know
thing I did like about it?
you know what. Save it for next
Nope,
time
I'm gonna
because
say it. I'm gonna
we're gonna
say it. I'm gonna say
we're gonna
it.
leave it on a
I'm gonna
cliffhanger. It's
say
gonna be
it.
on a
I'm gonna
cliffhanger.
say it. I like the character variety. Okay, that's it. That's the only thing that's good
All
about
right,
that game. All right, so
all
end
right.
it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to this special episode of the 8BG cast. Um, we hope that you stay safe out there if you're listening to it in more recent times. And, uh, you know,
And if you don't
uh,
like black people, just leave us alone. I'm playing. I'm just playing.
I
just don't.
mean, hey, I'd
We
rather have that. Yeah,
just don't bother us.
um, leave us alone. Yes. Just respect one another.
Yeah,
And I hope to see, some good positive change
yeah.
in the
Just
future down the line.
just like he said. I think the most important thing is you don't have to like us. We don't have to like
Exactly.
you, but just have respect.
Respect. Yeah,
That's it.
that's true. I think that's the key word. No,
Just
you don't have to like somebody. I know people don't like me, and I don't like them, but we know we have a mutual respect for each other, and I would never disrespect somebody unless they disrespect me first.
I don't know
So,
anyone that doesn't like you, but that's another thing.
yeah.
Who doesn't like you? Anyway, all right, brother.
Yeah. All right, man. So, thank you very much, guys, for listening. Hope you have a great day. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I gotta start saying that now.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah, you do.
we want to grow our channel. I think our channel is doing pretty good, and I would definitely want to see more. I would love to see more activity and more comments from everybody.
Content coming
So
soon. We're getting on it.
we're getting on it. Definitely, I think we're doing a good job.
I got a
We can do
turbo
better.
graphics I didn't talk about yet.
We got to definitely talk about that. Also, I want to hear what you have to say about the Game Gear Mini.
Oh, I hope it comes to America. I think it's
But
stupid because you can't play it really. Like you could, but you can't. Come on, that's too high screen. Get out of here.
yeah, and what's even worse about that? Like I know we're running long, but I just gotta say this. I love how they are selling a magnifying glass, like a magnifying screen for it.
They're $50
So
a piece too.
yeah, $50 a piece, and then
For
in
4
Japan,
games.
if you buy the package with all 4 games, it comes with a free magnifying glass. The fact that
4 games.
they
What? On what planet could you not fit all of those games onto one thing? What the?
and I don't even know, like I had the Game Gear, like I had a Game Gear. There's a few games I played in it, but to tell you the truth, if there are ports from other game systems, they were just like there because you wanted to take it on the go.
What is
You know what I mean? Like they weren't that great.
What is the logic between it? Like, why would they? Why?
I don't even think the nostalgia for Game Gear is
They
that
did
strong.
good with the Sega Genesis thing, and then they just go like, oh, okay.
They're milking it now.
Let's just make the idea. I think of making one mini is cool, but at least make it functional. Make it like, you know, something that you could at least put on your keychain and see. And
Yeah,
like, take
that
out
would be good. Yeah, I thought it would be like a keychain. I didn't think they were actually doing like.
And these games are like 2 megabytes or something a piece. So why not just throw out the whole damn library that you can get? Like, why
Listen,
4 games? How are you supposed to play Shining Force? Shining Force on that you have to read on a 1-inch screen.
Yeah, that's why you have to buy. That's why you have to buy the magnifying glass for $20.
That just seems like such a miss.
We'll talk about this later on.
Yeah,
8BG out, guys.
We're out
Thank
here.
you.
Bye.